What's going on, guys? So before we jump into the video, I just wanted to kind of address a question that may or may not be on your mind. If you're wondering, didn't I see this video earlier today or yesterday, depending on when I put this up? Yes. Yes, I recorded that video a week ago. Didn't post it because I wasn't sure about it. Decided to just go ahead and post it to get something up this morning, and then took it down pretty quickly because I wasn't proud of it. I don't think it was that good. It, for example, missed a lot of like really useful information. Like I never mentioned which camera and lens I used to shoot the film, and I just wasn't proud of it. So I decided rather than have something up there forever that I'm not proud of, take it down, redo it, and we'll get this series off on the right foot. So hopefully you're with me. Thanks for bearing with my indecision. I appreciate it. Enough rambling, on to the video. Hi, Wallstrom? Yeah, I hope there's photographs on it.
Yeah, there's pictures here. That's cool. So that's a good start.
So ISO 1.6 film is pretty weird, right? It was sent to me probably about a year ago, and I'm super sorry. I forget who it was who sent it to me. If you are the person who sent me that and all that other weird film, please leave a comment down below, and I'll be sure to credit you on the next one of these. But it was something I got in the mail. I didn't know anything about it. It's a film that's sold by the Film Photography Project. They actually get it from Kodak, who makes it for the motion picture industry. And I did the smallest amount of research into this, at least what I could find, and apparently they use it to dupe motion picture film or make copies of 35 millimeter motion picture film. For that reason, it is sharp. It's surprisingly sharp, and it was never intended to be shot as a stills film. It was never intended to be used to create images in any way, whether it's stills or motion picture. It was sort of an intermediary, a tool in a process, not an end unto itself. So before we get going, for those of you who aren't aware, and I assume most of you are, but if you're not, ISO is basically film or your digital camera's sensor. It's sensitivity to light, and generally a higher ISO film or a higher ISO setting on a digital camera is going to allow more light in at the expense of introducing more grain or noise to an image. So if you're shooting like low light scenes and maybe you don't want to use a flash or do want to use it but want to conserve some of it, you're going to turn that ISO up. It's going to introduce a little more noise, or if you're shooting something like Delta 3200, it's going to be grainy, but it's going to capture a lot more light than a lower ISO sensor or film would. For that same reason, if you're shooting something like landscapes that aren't going anywhere, you can shoot something like Velvia 50 or turn that ISO option down on your camera and get really crisp, grain-free images. Going in to shoot with this film, I had a couple of expectations, and I think the biggest one was that I was always going to need a tripod. To me, it seemed obvious that 1.6 is so cripplingly slow that hand holding it in any sort of light would be impossible. And to my surprise, that turned out to not be true. If you're going out on a brightly lit day and you have a fast lens, in this case, I shot all of these photos on my Canon A1 with a 50mm 1.4. You can shoot this handheld. I shot photos at 1/100th of a second, which is pretty fast. And granted, that's wide open with a fast lens in direct sunlight. It's surprising how usable the film is in daylight. Now, would you want to use it in that way? That's up for debate. So what I want to do is take a look at the photographs, go through what I thought of them, and kind of give you some idea of how I shot them and maybe what I would do differently if I were to use another roll of this film in the future. Let's go. So this is the first photograph that I took with this film. It's a hardware store in Troy. I just went out and kind of set it up on a tripod and tried to get something cool. I was still thinking that I would need exceptionally long exposures with this, and as it turned out, because I shot this at something like f11, I did leave it open for I think multiple seconds, as you can see by the flag flapping in the background and the blurred person walking. But couple of things that are really interesting about this. For starters, the color. And you're going to see this through all of these photographs. This film has, when you look at the actual negative, an extremely red hue to it. It's got like this sort of like magenta cast to everything that translates to this very cool blue look to all of the photographs. And I mean cool in temperature wise, not like this is super cool. That's obvious in this one. I like sort of the way the red pops. I think this picture is really creepy. And I think that making the red paint look that tone of red makes it even creepier. Because to me, it looks like blood. You know, it's a creepy photograph. Not much really to say about it. I think it's kind of neat. One thing that you're going to get a hint of in this image that you'll see more clearly in the future is the dynamic range on this film. The exposure latitude is not forgiving. Highlights blow out very quickly, and shadows tend to block up really quickly as well. This is a photograph from South Troy. A couple of trucks sitting in front of a warehouse of some kind. I was just walking by, I saw this, I thought the Jeep was cool, and I snapped this one handheld, and I think it looks pretty cool. It was really, really bright outside, and the snow on the ground had really kind of amplified that, so there was a lot of light, and I was able to shoot this at a relatively fast shutter speed, and I don't think it was opened up all the way, if I remember correctly, but not a ton to say about this one. But again, the sharpness, the look is really interesting, and you can see, you know, again, the white of the snow is very, very clearly blown out in a lot of spaces here. But yeah, one thing that I did find is a consistent theme through a lot of these photographs is I took pictures with like bricks in them, and I was shocked at how crisp and sharp the details looked, especially for, you know, 35 millimeter film. Now this photograph is out of focus. I think that might be motion blur. I'm not certain. This is again in South Troy. This is out by a restaurant that Casey and I like to go and get brunch. But reason that I think this is kind of interesting is because I have photographed this same wall before using Fuji 400H, and in similar light, similar circumstances, the way that this looks versus that is pretty striking. As you can see, the details on the left side of the image are almost entirely gone. That tree is silhouetted, it's completely black, the sky is white. When you look at the 400H image, there's a lot more detail in the tree, and it's just, there's a lot more going on visually, which I think makes it a much more interesting and better photograph. Now these next three photographs are from South Troy. There's sort of a couple of bridges out by these old industrial buildings and a river running down through the middle of them. You can see the factories in the background, and I thought it would be cool to go out and do some long exposures. I took these near sunset, so later in the afternoon. These photographs were all taken at exposures of, you know, upwards of 10 seconds, and I was metering for ISO 1. So I figured these might be overexposed, and that didn't necessarily turn out to be the case. You see the same thing here. Obviously, there's this incredibly blue cast to everything here. You'll also see that the details in the shadows are almost entirely gone, and the sky is, you know, cloud-free and blown out. I think, honestly, if I were to shoot this film again in the future, this is the sort of stuff I would want to do, more long exposures. I think the idea of doing long exposures in direct sunlight would be really interesting and worth taking a look at. Now these next two photographs are from Syracuse. This is downtown Syracuse. That's a statue of Christopher Columbus in the foreground. I think this one's really, really cool. So first and foremost, obviously you can see Christopher is almost silhouetted. You've lost detail in the shadows. However, in this one, I like the way the sky looks. It's super surreal. I took some photos of this on my cell phone, and you can see kind of what it actually looked like versus this. I love the way the stone in the building looks. I just think that it's got this creamy, weird look. You can see kind of an office building in the background with the windows. I like this photo, actually. I think this is very cool. You know, I'm not sure I would print it and hang it on my wall, but I was a little bit surprised and pleased with how this turned out. This is also in Syracuse. This one had a bunch of like dust on the bottom that I found was difficult to get rid of with the heel tool. Probably at this resolution and on YouTube you can't see it, but a couple of things. One, the color. it didn't look like this outside that day. It didn't look like this at all. The other thing is, when you get in and look at the bricks in this image, the detail is really striking, and the sharpness of this film comes through. You know, you're sacrificing a lot to use this type of film or something along these lines, you know, where it's so incredibly limited, but you are getting very surprisingly sharp images for a film that was never intended to be used to take pictures on a 35 millimeter camera. I was surprised at how cool a lot of this turned out. This is a photograph that I had taken previously using black and white film, I think Tri-X, and really liked. I really enjoyed the way it looked. I have it on my Instagram, I believe. This one does not look as good. I think that the colors and the way this handles highlights is sort of not pleasing. I'm not really a fan of it. It has a unique look, but I think in a lot of respects it loses much of what I really enjoy about color negative film, which is that really expansive dynamic range and exposure latitude, and that the way that highlights tend to kind of glow and not, you know, just clip over into white. And this has a tendency to really lose a lot of that. So as far as like the way the film looks, I'm not huge on it, but in certain circumstances, I think it does look kind of neat. And last, this is a drink that I made. This is a paper plane. I think this is what, like bourbon, Aperol, Amaro, and lime juice, I think. I don't remember. I remember I didn't like it as much as I thought I would when I made it. But again, I was just trying to use film. The 50 millimeter lens makes things look kind of pretty. That shallow focus to me is always, I'm a sucker for it forever and ever and ever. But yeah, again, very cool colors, very blue. I guess not a ton to say about this one. And last, this is a beautiful self-portrait that I did. I was just trying to take a creepy picture with long exposures. It's, you know, nothing particularly interesting, but I thought it was kind of fun. So it is what it is. So yeah, Kodak super low 1.6 ISO film is limiting, weird, and unique. Would I shoot this film again? Probably. I think, yeah, actually, probably I would. You can get it right now. The Film Photography Project sells it. It's like $10 a roll, I think. If it's more than that, I'm really sorry. But order it, shoot it, try it out. What's cool about film, my favorite part about shooting film, is the variety of film stocks that you can shoot and the different crazy looks you can get and the way you can kind of explore the history of photography by trying them out. And this is not only a little bit of the history of photography, but also of motion pictures and the motion picture industry, which I think is very cool. So yeah, try it out, shoot it. Let me know what you think. If you've ever shot it, let me know. Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? I'm really interested to find out. So as per the rules of this weird little series of videos I'm doing, I picked a film stock last time, and if you didn't see it already, I won't spoil it and I won't tell you what it was, but I'm gonna do it again. I'm picking a new one. I'm gonna shoot a different roll of film, and we're gonna do this all over because there's no tricks here. There's no deception here. We're being straightforward. Let's go. Oh God. I did squats and deadlifts for the first time in forever yesterday, and it's not working out so well. All right, so here we go. The second film in the 35 millimeter project. It is, I know what it is. I can see it through the case here. It is the FPP Edu 200 with Ali the Pug. Very exciting. People told me things about this film. I don't know anything about it. We'll find out and we'll shoot it and have a good time. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to help out the channel, I reactivated the Patreon, but set it up so that it is per video right now. So if I'm off not holding my end of the bargain up, you don't do anything. You can do $1 a video if you feel comfortable and you want to help me buy weird film stocks to run around and photograph frozen upstate New York. I would really appreciate it. As always, follow me on Instagram. It's really the only social media I'm on anymore. And say hi and introduce yourself. Have a good one, guys. Bye.